Hello, everybody. My name is Kwame Harrison. I am Associate Professor of Africana Studies and Sociology and do some other things on this campus. As a popular music scholar, I have oftentimes employed this concept that we call music scene in my work. A lot of my work surrounds popular music. And the definition of music scene, this comes from Richard Peterson and Andy Bennett, their book entitled Music Scenes. It is contexts in which clusters of producers, musicians, and fans collectively share their common musical taste and collectively distinguish themselves from others. Now, music scene is a broad and flexible academic concept, and music scenes can involve particular genres. We can talk about the bluegrass music scene. They can involve particular localities, highly localized spaces, like there was a old-time music scene every Tuesday night at Gillies for years here in Blacksburg. That no longer exists, but it was here. They can involve more general localized scenes. You can talk about the music scene in Seattle. They can involve translocal music scenes, so music can be moving, or they can even involve virtual music scenes. So this concept of music scene has been used and used in a lot of different ways. Similarly, at some point during my time here, I started to think, and it was during my time here at Virginia Tech, I started to think about music scenes in terms of college campuses. And that college campuses have venues in which music is being performed, sometimes proximate to campus, just in town, sometimes right on campus. They have radio stations, WUVT. They have other kinds of forums and events in which people engage music. And then if we really think about this definition, if we think about places where collectively we have musicians, and there are college bands, there are plenty of musicians on campus. And if we think about fans, and if we think about all those people working behind the scenes to make it happen, all of that is going on college campuses. So why not think about college campuses as a center and a place to discuss and to really understand what music scenes are? So that's sort of one path. Another path that I have in my book, and I'm not going to plug my book right now, but in my book on hip-hop, I talk a little bit about hip-hop as a new folk music. And what I mean by hip-hop as a new folk music, I mean that, one, that there's a certain do-it-yourself aesthetics that surrounds hip-hop. And it's always surrounded hip-hop, although it's come into view much more in the last, I would say, 20 or so years as more home recording technologies have become domesticated and people are like making albums in their homes much more prominently than people did, let's say 40 years ago. Now anybody with a home computer and a microphone can presumably start working on music. So I think about this as a folk music. I also think about hip hop's unique structure. And I think the most notable element of that is that hip hop musically, it uses consumption of music to produce new music. And we can take that back to the moments when we think about what we understand, or what some people call the birth of hip-hop. And again, certain parties where DJs were using two turntables and using the turntable, transitioning it from an object of consumption, from a way to listen to music to a way to make music. When you put those two things together, you really have, I would say, a forum, a way of making music that is not the exclusive purview of elite virtuoso musicians, but everyday people are involved in making and creating hip-hop, a new form of folk music. So for me, this exhibition, it really captures this Virginia Tech hip-hop scene and this Virginia Tech hip-hop scene as a folk music. And it's really empowering for me to see the extent to which this is student-driven. When I arrived here in 2002 and I taught what I believe is the first hip-hop class at Virginia Tech, people were already doing this. And if you look at the various flyers and some of the things that are up, some of the people who are documented, they precede that. As more and more golden age hip-hop heads have been able to join the faculty and staff and have been involved in growing the hip-hop scene here at Virginia Tech, we are not necessarily bringing hip-hop to the students. We are not bringing hip hop. Students are already doing this. We are meeting them collaboratively as partners working together to create this hip hop scene. So much of what you see going on here involves students. Yes, there are a few of us who have the titles and or control of the resources to add something, even if sometimes that something is as simple as legitimacy, as a little bit more legitimacy to something that continues to vie for recognition. But it really is led and driven by the students. Hip hop at Virginia Tech continues to exist as a student-oriented, student-led endeavor surrounding education, surrounding cultivation of inclusion and belonging, and surrounding the really, really important but sometimes overlooked aspects of recreation, and having fun. So I want to thank everybody who was involved in putting this together and who's involved in contributing to hip hop here. It's a wonderful exhibit. As Freddie said, tell your story, share your story. Let's continue to grow this. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Mandy Wright. I'm the Communication Program Coordinator in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and I need to slow down, obviously. I wanted to say something about hip hop culture and identity. I was thinking about what to say in my remarks today, and I've loved hip hop since as a little kid in a small town in Ohio that still is 4,500 residents. I literally lived next door to a cornfield, and I remember seeing break-in, and I remember hearing music my sisters had bought because they were teenagers, and hearing Curtis Blow, and just really loving this culture that I had no actual personal relationship with, but being so drawn to it, and wondering, you know, even as a kid, like how can I be involved in this? How can this be part of my identity? Fast forward to an undergrad at Ohio State, used to go to underground hip hop shows, saw lots of amazing DJs, saw one of the most amazing MC battles between a guy and a girl who were just random unknown people, and it was fantastic, and it's still there, it's still hovering. And then I got here to Virginia Tech and kind of been out of touch with hip hop for a while, and had a conversation with my colleague Freddie Page, who told me that there's this organization here, and Craig's been here, and all these folks have been working on this, and you know, the student organizations are really involved, and I thought this was a great chance for me to catch up, hear what's going on in the music, and hear what's going on in the culture again, and hopefully reconnect to all the different elements of hip hop culture. I love dancing, I love art, I love music, and I think that, you know, what Kwame said about it being a maker, you know, creative, you know, from the ground up kind of art form and culture is so important to me. But then also that culture is a way, and this is sort of an ongoing thread throughout my life, that culture is a way of connecting to other people. Thinking about last year, the Islamic studies presentations throughout the year with Omar Effendim, and he talked about this a lot, that his music is a way of connecting to being Muslim and being in the US, and hip hop is a way of connecting to people who are not Muslim as well, and just those kind of threads that can help us see and relate and connect to each other, I think are so important, and figuring out, you know, how it is part of your identity, but also how you can relate to other people, because humanity is about culture before anything else. And I think that that's so important because we spend so much time in these spaces thinking about, you know, the work and the technology and the, you know, the science and all of that, and we're so driven by that. But I think one of the most important things that we should all be doing here is figuring out who we are as human beings and connecting on that level. So I think this is a fantastic way to do it. And I've had some of the best conversations in the past year on this campus with students because of this organization. So thank you all.